Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Maria. Happy Sunday, and we're getting on to the end of June. Yes, so clicking right along. I thought I would make a video today about several things, just quick little blurbs that are in the news. So, God rest Gabby Petito's soul, and at this point now, God rest Brian Laundrie's soul too. What we're being told, and what Gabby's family is being told, is that Brian Laundrie's notebook has been found and released, and his letter, his suicide note, his journal was to Gabby. The story he gives, and you can go read it, is a ramble of the most narcissistic, going out as a hero, note I've ever heard. It's I've wondered at times if he even wrote it, because the autopsy report found that he was right-hand dominated and that he was shot in his left temple. I don't know anyone that holds a gun with a right hand and turns it around to the left temple and really thinks they're going to do a good enough job to off themselves without turning out to be suffering and a mess, right, for the rest of their life. So there's been some working theories out there in internet land that somebody actually assisted him in a suicide, like maybe one of his parents, like his father, or yeah, like his father. So the Laundries knew that their boy was going out. They knew before he left that he killed Gabby. What we don't know is what the reaction was from Brian's father and mother. This was a young lady that was like a daughter to them. They knew the families. She lived with them. Um, they were going to be married. They were very happy for their son that she had said yes. Uh, they adored her, and they spoke highly of her and spoke about how at times Gabby, Brian's sister, spoke about, well, Gabby had and Brian together uh, often acted like brother and sister that were fighting. And so they did get physical together and wrestle and scream and yell and then up and down, and then everything would be fine. And they just would get on each other's nerves, and then everything would be fine. So everybody thought this van trip would be really good for them to be together and figure out, is it going to work or not? But the letter that Brian wrote, basically what he said is they had been in Utah where the temperatures were really high, it's really hot, and then as they got to Wyoming, the temperatures dropped drastically, and they had to cross a creek, and they were crossing, and he heard a splash and a scream and turned around, and it was Gabby. She had fallen. She was screaming for help, and he realized that something was really wrong, picked her up, didn't know if she had a head injury or she broke something, didn't really know, and tried to carry her. Now the van was far away, like they had been exploring the creek. They had been crossing the creek. We all know that crossing creeks is very dangerous. Anybody listening, please warn your children. Creeks can overflow. Creeks can get, the waves can get very fast and furious very quickly. So creeks can be very dangerous, and they are an attraction to young kids often, and elderly even, and people that go just sit and want to fish or wade their feet in a creek. It's, even if creek water is shallow, it can start running, and that's the attraction. It can start running very fast. So most people with creeks are going to try to put a log or something over the creek to walk over it. And if Brian was a survivor out in the wilderness, he would have known that, but they didn't do that. They trudged through the creek. Gabby fell, supposedly, gashed her head, banged her head. Brian decided it was a concussion. She was shaking violently. He was trying to hold her and carry her to the van, but he didn't know how far the van was away from where they had crossed the creek. It was getting dark. He couldn't see. Um, Instead, he decided to make a fire and to spoon her to keep her warm. And she was going into hypothermia. He didn't know how bad the head injury was, so he kept waking her up. Every time she woke up, she would be upset with him and yell at him and cry, and she was in pain. Uh, the van was just on the other side of the creek. It was not far. But his knees buckled. He was nervous, and so he stopped like 12 feet from the van and made a fire and stayed there. And when Gabby said, "Oh my God, my pain, I just want to die, I just want to die," he ended her life. It was merciful. Please don't take this out on my parents. This is tragic. I would stay alive so that Gabby's brother and father could kill me, but I wouldn't want them to go to jail. It's tragic. My my family had nothing to do with this. They loved her. Um, the best thing I can do is uh, kill myself. His letter goes from writing to Gabby to then talking about himself and his family, and it's such a convenient, crazy ramble that you gotta wonder, one, if Brian takes everything too literal. Two, if he wrote it. Three, if he really killed himself because left temple, right hand dominant. I mean, just saying, if I'm gonna shoot myself in my left temple, even if I'm not left hand dominant, I'm gonna use my left hand. I'm not gonna try to like make it over. I'm gonna shoot myself right here. Just saying. The parents knew exactly where to find his body, exactly where to find the notebook, the wet dry pack. They I truly believe that there's a cover up going on, and I believe Petitos believe that too. So I don't believe that. That's one thing out in the news I don't believe. Um, Two, I want to be clear about the videos I've been making about Ghislaine Maxwell and the survivor and girls. I'm making the parallel of Hugh Hefner and Jeffrey Epstein as a society, is that I think we define predators as something in our mind that we refuse to see what is right in front of our face. A predator is a predator is a predator. They can dress up in a robe and a captain hat and live in a big mansion, and they're still a predator. They can have celebrity and power, they're still a predator. So um, I think that accessories to uh, sex trafficking and perpetration and all that, which Ghislaine Maxwell would be, I would have compassion for her if she admitted to being a part of it, to even admitting a little bit. Like, I made some poor choices when I was with Jeffrey, but going the path of I was a victim of Jeffrey too. My dad groomed me to be with Jeffrey. All of my behavior with Jeffrey was because of my dad. Um, is not taking responsibility for any of her behavior. Um, I am not giving Ghislaine a pass jail go card at all. I believe she has a lot she can offer to the community, to the world in general, and there's a lot she needs to say to the woman that were then girls that she was a part of harming. And it can go something like this: I'm sorry. I made mistakes. I was not using good judgment. I was operating in victim mode. I was under extreme trauma and tragedy from my dad dying. Jeffrey was a kind of like a trigger for that. And I was willing to do everything he wanted me to do. And I see that it was wrong. Now, she doesn't have to admit to everything she did. She could say, I see some of the things I did led girls into this situation. I feel badly about that. And I was wrong. But I didn't see it at the time. I thought I was just helping my boyfriend get what he wanted. And then all these girls were bringing in other girls. I didn't do that. Um, but she has to own what she did do. So, and there's no way of knowing that if she was alone, naked in a room, or three-way sex or four-way, whatever. There's no way of knowing. Just like there's no way of knowing when the twins are suing the Playboy Mansion that other adults knew that Hugh Hefner was drugging them and having group sex, and they were underage. Although there was um, a young girl now that has come forward that her father was the Playboy Mansion doctor, and he was Dr. Feelgood. So he was the one that was giving the woman you drugs to give the girls, and the women, and everyone. Um, so consenting adults, yeah, but not young, not drugged, and not young. Never drugged, never young, never drugged, never anyone. So once you enter drugs into the scene and they're being drugged, it's against their will. So it'll always be. So I believe in forgiveness, sure. I believe in rehabilitation, sure. Um, but I am not excusing what Ghislaine Maxwell did at all. I'm just saying 33 to 55 years is not going to change what she did. And maybe if she has something to offer the world, she should be given a whole lot of a work program or something, and be kept like with an ankle monitor, because she is a flight risk. She's a submarine risk, a helicopter risk, and a flight risk. And she needs to be under strict watch, um, and get a whole lot of therapy, and maybe pay some towards the woman she had something to do with. Where they draw the line on other girls and women that recruited and brought in, knowing, I don't know. So that's my feeling about that. But the Colleen's lawyers have now argued that the victim impact statement from 6-7 women is beyond the statutory, and they do not want those letters in there. So people like Maria Farmer, um, Virginia, and anybody that was going to write a letter, they're trying to keep those out on Tuesday. Okay, that's going on. There has, I guess, I don't really understand what's happening with Amber and Johnny, other than the judgment has been made that, and there's a lot of law. Um, there's a lot of law channels and better channels like Popcorn Planet and uh, Crime Law Network and Pascal and Emily uh, Baker and Laura B. And Law and Lumber. There's tons of good ones that are explaining that I believe Christopher Melcher, Mr. Christopher Melcher, was on um, uh, Popcorn Planet the other day, explaining what it meant that the judgment has been made for Amber to pay up. But what that means, how she'll get the money, so there's no settlement happening. But that could be hung up in appellate court for years. And then Johnny owes 2 million to Amber. Amber's never going to have 10 million something. So what he, I mean, there would be a judgment on her. Or she could get some kind of insurance company to post a bond of that much money. So that's what's going on. She's trying to write a book, a tell-all book. I really, somebody else will have to read it for me because I don't want to hear it. Shout out to Andy. Remember when Britney Spears' sister, Jamie Lynn, wrote the book, her tell-all book? uh, Andy read it for us, so we didn't have to. He broke it down because, so I will not be reading Amber Heard's book. Yeah, if Johnny wants to write a book, but I don't think he will, I would read that. And that's not because I'm a Johnny fan over an Amber fan. It's just because I you it's just the same old from Amber. Me, 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 me. Look what everyone did to me. Um, Victim. I don't want to hear that. What else is going on? Roe versus Wade was overturned. Yes. We will remember this. Okay, so I live in New York State, Rochester, New York. I am in a safe state. And what women around here are saying is, wait a minute, we're in a safe state. One of my friends, she wrote a beautiful post that women run in packs. We're like wolves. We will take care of each other. We go to the bathroom together. We do our makeup together. We brush our teeth together. We go shopping together. We collect coupons together. We bake. We cook together. We go get our hair removed together. We do pedicures together. We do everything. Women do everything together. We go thrifting together. We Okay. We drive by our old boyfriends' houses together. I know a lot of people don't want to believe this, but it's true. It's not like Fatal Attraction. Women do this. They do. Girlfriends will go check out the new girlfriend, drive by where they work. We do it. We might as well just admit we do it. We also take care of women. So there will always be safe states so far. There will also be safe travel and a place for a woman to stay, to get care, a room, a bowl of chicken soup, and care. That has been going on since 1970 in New York. Before Roe versus Wade hit the courts and became, in 1973, um, a right, a right that was overturned. Now, the bigger issue for me is, where does the Constitution end with overturning rights? Are they rights? Why are 9 people that the majority of people did not vote in? Some were rushed in, not properly vetted, confirmed, with questionable behavior. Why are 9? Why are we still living in a so said democracy with 9 Supremes? If we go back and look at the vote, it was 6-3. The first Supreme Court justice was 6, I believe. 6. It was like, there was one uh, who was kind of above it, and then 5 more. If we went back to 1789, when the Supreme Court began with this system, Um, it would have been 3-3. Would have been a tie. Um, do we have too many Supremes? Do we? Do we need Supremes? If other presidents are nominating Supremes, I know the Constitution is built on this, but I think it's a starting point to look at our Constitution and how the government is run. I'm for unseating Supremes. It's the only way to take back the government. And I also know that I'm saying that sounds really radical, and that sounds really um, like we're taking away all the checks and balances, but are we? Um, because there is an elite that is making that choice. And in other countries, they don't have that. They have, well, they have something like that, panels and so forth, but not like this is. Not that one president was able to get 3 Supremes in and during a pandemic and then give everybody COVID while um, putting one in. Um, and you know what? I'm tired of hearing Susan Collins say, I don't think Judge Kavanaugh would overturn Roe versus Wade. That's exactly what he did, and you've been wrong on everything. So I just no disrespect, but just stop talking. You've been wrong on everything. You want to believe the best of but you've been wrong. You have to look at your party you're standing with and say, well, wait a minute. They're doing everything wrong, but I'm still believing they're going to do everything right. Okay. Um, the divide is there are a lot of women in pro-life that are celebrating. They have worked for years for this. They have prayed for this. They have stood around abortion clinics. They have walked around with picket signs. They have started crisis pregnancy centers everywhere. But let me tell you about crisis pregnancy centers. They do not follow up the way they are saying they do. They do not. They turn over, they get a woman, teenager, through their pregnancy with prenatal care, with good nutrition, with trying to make a decision to adopt, and usually, um, usually they do advise to go for adoption. Um, it's very rare with crisis pregnancy center. It's more rare with Christian crisis pregnancy centers that anyone keeps their baby. It's very rare. And the politicians don't pay for that child and that mother and future children and their life now that they could not afford. They don't. They they get the baby out of the womb. They get the mother through the pregnancy. They pay for the crib, the bassinet, the diapers, the oh my gosh, because I worked at a crisis pregnancy center. I worked at both ends. I worked at Planned Parenthood. I worked at Teen Family Team in Rochester, New York. You get a furniture voucher. They don't. You get private donors from a church. Um, you get baskets, excuse me, with formula, and maybe, I mean, if you decide to keep your baby, you get diapers for a little while. You get a coupon for formula. You get hand-me-down furniture. You get a voucher to go to a thrift store and find a crib. You get a couple people in church that might buy you. Some people in church might say, buy bassinet, crib, swing, whatever, car seat, all that. So they get you set up at the basic level. And then they turn you over to welfare and they turn you over to welfare. and that's your life. And then the young man that is not really working enough to um, pay child support in order to uh, for the woman and the child to get health care, nutrition, food stamps, and care, they have to name the father so that that welfare can go after the father. And the truth is, the fathers don't usually have the money. It goes to the grandparents. Now, the grandparents have to pay the money. Many times, the grandparents end up raising the kids. And it's a stress on the family. It's overcrowding, it's stress. And I'm going to do a whole video on grandmothers and why grandmothers are redefining what grandparenting is later. But for now, I'll just say the crisis pregnancy centers, they do not. And if that child is born with a um, disability or whatever, the foster cares, the orphanages are overflowing right now with children that are crack addicted, alcohol addicted, poor nutrition, um, spina bifida, uh, they need special schooling. There's all kinds of things that special care. Um, so what I feel this choice is the elite saying only some people can have a quality life. We're going to choose for you who gets to pursue their dreams, who gets to live at a base level and struggle, and who gets to keep going, go to college, go to work, and whose kids become latchkey kids. They come up with daycares. They come up with paying the grandparents. That comes all out of the taxpayers' dollars. So who's going to take care of all these babies? Okay, that's number one. Number two, crisis pregnancy center does not go beyond 3 years. It doesn't. The program I worked with went up to 5 years, and women and families were given financial assistance, emotional assistance, everything they needed to keep the family going. Um, and I think it should be clear that birth control needs to be revisited. For years, women have bared the brunt of havoc on our bodies. If anyone has ever been on birth control, and I was on it from 12 years old, um, so I was in my 30s. It wore on me. It's dangerous. It's safer now, but you can still get blood clots. You can still get strokes. You still have headaches. You still get bloating. You still get groggy. You still get temperamental. You can still get crazy cravings of food. You can still get reactions and not be able to take it. Um, some women are actually allergic to condoms. And the lubrication used in condoms. So, I mean, you just don't know. Women have fought with men for years to wear a condom. Um, Women have had to put contraptions inside of their bodies, IUDs, been fitted and worn them. Women, rhythm really doesn't work. The only thing that works is abstinence. And sometimes a woman doesn't have a choice with that once they're married, or, God forbid, they're raped or molested or incest. So, what I'm proposing, and a lot of people have been for years now, is vasectomies are reversible. When a male child comes of age, there is nothing dangerous that we know of. It's relatively safe to have a vasectomy, and they are reversible. It's relatively painful, little discomfort, pretty quick, maybe a 2-day recovery. Many male children as babies are automatically circumcised, right? It's considered okay. Well, by puberty, vasectomy. It's reversible. So when a male child grows up and they have pursued their career goals, gone to college, they're set, they feel like they can actually take care of a family, have it reversed. Have that be a decision that partners make. It sounds, I know it sounds old and barbaric, but it's not. Doctors have been doing this for years. Just a quick note. There will always be abortions. Doctors will find creative ways to do abortions. They will do DNCs, dilation and curettage. They will clean out uteruses. They will find infections and say we have to do a DNC. They will find women that bleed too much and have to have it expulsed out. They will cleanse the uterus of bacteria. They will even go so far as to say, it's time we take those fibroids out. So we have to remove your uterus. There will be women that will have their ovaries taken out after having a few cysts. Doctors will get creative. Doctors have for years been deciding, okay, you already have 2 kids. You're already on the system, 3 kids, 4 kids. You're already on the system. You're having to go to welfare for food. And why don't we take your uterus out? Now, a doctor's never going to tell you, I'm taking your uterus out because you're a burden to the system. No, they'll tell you bleed too much. They'll tell you you have too much pelvic pain. They'll tell you, and they will decide. They will decide if you're well enough in the head, and go all the way back to the 18 and 1900s, and go back to the word hysteria and hysterectomy. Doctors believe that taking a woman's uterus out solved all kinds of problems. And the number one problem it caused was women that were promiscuous, women that already had too many children, and women that couldn't afford children. So that has been going on for years. So that is my feeling about Roe versus Wade. I don't think we're going to turn it back. I think we're going to redefine it. But everyone is looking at this as this is over. I look at it as a starting point to visit issues like gun law, um, so many gun laws, gay rights, so many things that are on the books now. It's already been mentioned by Clarence Thompson that they're going to revisit that. Ooh, what do you mean? Okay, so if you can overturn rights in the United States Constitution now over semantics because it doesn't say a woman has a right, then they can overturn anything. So is the Constitution viable and useful? And does it mean anything? So do our Supremes mean anything? So I think it's a beginning point for an unseating of the Supremes and our total overhaul of Constitution. Law is ever evolving, and so this is a starting point. Things have to be torn down before you can clean it out and build it up. They're tearing down their own house. So um, I'm not going to get involved in the fear mongering, although I think it's a very sad, sad state of affairs. And yes, it does look like it's racist. And yes, it does look like it's against women, but it's against life. It's against quality of life for all. So that's my little about Roe versus Wade. I was 14 when abortions became legal. I was 12 years old when I was brought to a gynecologist. I was 13 when I had my first DNC, and I had several DNCs. I'm just telling you, this is something that's very close to my heart. I understand all ends of it. And I worked with pregnant teenagers for 5 years and in the county of Monroe. And we followed families until a woman was 21 years old. So the first 5 years of their life, baby was born. And um, crisis pregnancy centers, pro-life that are putting up, they don't do that. They don't do that. They just talk you into, you can have your baby, you got support. They give you a good friend to hang out with you, a little support group. Here's how you hold the baby. Here's how you diaper the baby. Here's how you feed the baby. And then they're gone. That's the truth. Okay, everyone, that's my video for today. Have a nice day. Take care. Happy Sunday. Bye.